Kew Gardens, Charles and David Beckham, who is an ambassador of the King's Trust, had a lovely chat. We were listening to it. They were talking about presents. They were talking about roses. What's going on here? Why are two of the most famous family feuds in the world? How are they so interconnected?
I think it's basically a wonderful newspaper story.
It is. It's really, great for us to watch.
It's a great story. And
it's such a collision, isn't it?
I think often when there's really terrible things going on in the world, which there are now, I mean, there always are, but they're particularly bad now, people just, they don't want to read about it. They want to read something that's fluffy, and somebody super rich and a king is having a bad time with their children, because everyone, as we were saying earlier, everyone has a period when they have a bad time with their children. And I think it is such a relief to read something that is, in a way, it's quite funny. In a way, you can relate to it because of the family feuds. And it's also rather fascinating that the Beckham's son, Brooklyn, who was their firstborn, has sort of sided with his wife against the family. In a way, we're looking at Harry, who was, not firstborn, but sided with Meghan against the family.
Well, they're very similar. They're always, quite similar setups. Why do we think that Harry and Meghan would want to become friends with Brooklyn and Nicola? What's in it for them? Are they just a shoulder to cry on, giving advice, or is it some new unit?
I think it's the other way around, Matt. That Brooklyn and Nicola want to become friends with Harry and Meghan because Harry and Meghan are settled in Montecito. They are the most famous people, like them or not, and of course a lot of people really don't like them. They are the most talked about people in that Hollywood scene.
So Harry and Meghan could almost become like a blueprint.
I think if it's going down that road, I think Brooklyn needs to really seriously ask himself whether he does want this issue resolved, because Harry and Meghan have not succeeded in resolving anything with the royal family. I think, from David Beckham's point of view, he has been courting the monarchy for a very long time, and he has, he's a long-standing supporter of the king. And that probably explains his, he looking very dapper at Chelsea, and loved his suit jacket. But that explains his connection with the king. But Brooklyn and Nicola Peltz clearly have absolutely lapped up the opportunity to get to know Harry and Meghan, and no doubt, probably were sharing some notes. But Brooklyn needs to be very careful, because family is so important, and he has not lost his family yet. But he could. And life is long, and he's got to ask himself how he'll feel in 20 years' time if he's lost his relationship with his family. Yeah, it's not a blueprint to follow.
And apparently, I think I probably read it in The Sun, that David Beckham, of course, he had a big fallout with his father. Oh. You didn't write that, Matt?
That wasn't me, but I'll take credit for it if you liked it.
Yeah, and that lasted for years, and he just cannot believe that this is happening again, so he's sort of super upset.
Family risks are relatable, aren't they? I mean, it happens to everybody, but to see the two big celebrity couples going this way, it's crazy.
You would think that somebody who is so big would be able to find a solution to these problems, because you could go and you could just speak to, a therapist, like you'd have the money to speak to a therapist or a counsellor or whatever, but it just doesn't go that way. It comes, I think, from people being very set in their ways, and, Harry and perhaps Brooklyn maybe have both just got very rigidly set in a particular mentality that they can't get out of.
Do you think it's an error? I mean, it was. I don't think this story was meant to come out. We found it and we published it. I think they would have rather it didn't. But do you think it's an error for Harry and Meghan to cosy up and be friends with Brooklyn and Nicola?
I don't think it's anything to do with us. I really don't. I think that's very. I think I wouldn't feel happy commentating on that, who they can be friends with.
I have no problem with them being friends with Brooklyn and Nicola Peltz, but I think Brooklyn, and if Brooklyn and Nicola want to be friends with them, then fair enough. But I think Brooklyn should think very hard about whether, if he is getting advice, about whether that advice is actually good advice. And Meghan was giving advice to Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, who did pull out of the world of tennis. And I'm not an expert on tennis, but I don't think she is still. She was a legendary, iconic.
What was Meghan's advice?
Well, we don't know exactly what Meghan said, but Naomi Osaka pulled out. She was an absolute set up to be a iconic female tennis player, and she packed it all in because the anxiety was too much for her. And I cannot help but wonder whether she might also look back and wonder, think of what I could have achieved. Life is difficult. Life is really, really difficult. Anxiety is super difficult, and a lot of top flight sports, athletes and sports people do experience that. But it's a small window of your life, and would it have been better to just keep going? But we don't know what Meghan told her. Maybe Meghan told her to get back, to stop moaning and pick your tennis racket up.
Doesn't sound like Meghan,
Doesn't sound like Meghan, no.
Now at Kew Gardens, we mentioned about David Beckham, quite close, well, not courting the royals, but he's become a friend with the king. They've dined at Highgrove. He's become an ambassador. David's sent some honey to the king. We were overhearing a conversation, and it appeared to be a gift or a present had been shared, or that the King and Queen had possibly sent something to the Beckhams, and David Beckham was wearing the King's rose.
It was his 50th birthday, wasn't it?
It was his 50th birthday the other week, yeah. Do you think there are gifts shared there between the King and Queen and the Beckhams?
Well, I thought, obviously he's given her the new David Austin rose, which is the King's rose, really beautiful. But then it appears that that wasn't the case, but no one's going to confirm or deny it, so I don't think we're ever going to know. And then I thought, well, if maybe he sent 50 rose bushes to David Beckham, but you'd think David Beckham would have thanked him, not just personally, but would have just written him a very nice letter.
Yeah, probably should have done, really.
And then they were saying, well, did you get it? Did you get the roses, Camilla said.
Which is what you ask when you haven't had the thank you card.
Did you get my lovely... Did you get the flowers I sent you?
Basic protocol, not just royal protocol, basic protocol. If you get a present, send a thank you letter. We've just got time for our quick fire questions, everybody, so take a deep breath. What photo would you add to Meghan's 7-year anniversary mood board?
I would add there was a really beautiful picture that was of Meghan walking down the aisle on the wedding day. It was shot from above, it was wide, and you could see the whole of St. George's Chapel, the whole of the congregation, but there was just one kind of ray of sunlight coming in through one of the windows and shining on her, and I thought it was such a beautiful image that is the picture I would
have liked it. Did that have King Charles, or then Prince Charles, walking her down the aisle?
I think she did half of it by herself and half of it with Charles. I have a feeling it was the half she did by herself, but it was a beautiful moment when the King walked it down the aisle.
Exactly. Ingrid?
Well, I just think it's got to be something with Harry, because it's all about her and Harry. Sorry, Meghan, it's about Harry too. So I would add a picture of her and Harry, and preferably taken from the front, not the back. But I can't actually think of one. But there are some gorgeous pictures. They're both very photogenic. And I think that it needs just something that you could see. Not a tiny picture, something a bit bigger.
Well, it is a love story, as they told us on their Netflix series. That's what it's all about, an ongoing love story. Second question. It was revealed the King sent a birthday gift to David Beckham, or some kind of gift to David Beckham. What gift would you have sent Bex if you were King Charles?
Well, he doesn't need any more homes. He probably doesn't need any... Well, actually, I know what I would have sent him. I would have sent him probably one of the Queen's shooting dogs, puppies, which they're still there. They're still bred at Sandringham. And I think that would be a puppy from the King would be... Well, maybe I'm thinking because the King was given a puppy.
Yeah, and he lives in the Cotswolds.
He lives in the Cotswolds, and I'm sure he has ambitions about shooting and gentleman's pursuits. So I think a puppy, a Labrador puppy.
Jack?
I think the King should make Sandringham available for the latest Sandringham summit between Brooklyn, David, and just thrash it out the way the Royals did. They could have it on the same day in January next year.
What a wonderful idea, because it worked out so well last time.
Worked out so well for them, yeah.
Great, and final question. If the late Queen really does talk to Sarah Ferguson through the corgis, what do you think she's saying?
She would be saying, darling, thank you for supporting my son. And I love you very much, and I know you love him very much, so please carry on and look after him for me.
That's a lovely sentiment. Thank you, Ingrid. Jack?
I was just going to say, she'd say tone it down a little bit, which is slightly less.